Pensions meeting to look at the annual report. Item 1, apologies. Rachel, you've got some.
Apologies from Councillor Adam Kenley and Councillor Arwell Jones.
Okay, thank you, Rachel. Item 2, declarations of interest. I'll declare them now. I'm a member of Powys Pension Fund. Hugh, Karina. Yeah, I think they're all the same interests. Rachel, are you okay there? Thank you.
Yeah.
Item 3, minutes of last meeting of the 22nd October. Can I sign the true and correct as has been circulated? Can somebody propose? Thank you. Second, please. Karina, thank you. Are we happy? No dissenters. Thank you. Chair's announcements. Been quite busy really. I had a meeting with Scheme Advisory Board Chair last night, Teams meeting, concerning the Chancellor's request to increase pooling. We're going to have a meeting later on. The Chancellor's Mansion House piece took place on the 14th of November, which looked at reforming the pensions industry in the UK, which includes the LGPS. And so this requires by the 31st of March, all pools to the FCA agree like regulated companies with all assets under pool management by then. There is a focus on local investment, which is very interesting, and includes the implementation of good governance review, which has been in the works for a number of years. And also launched a consultation which closes on the 16th of January, which we will look to respond to as a fund. It's quite a lot going on at the moment. As I said, I did mention at the last meeting, so we'll learn more later on, but it's a big step forward. The meeting last night was very interesting, so I'll discuss further later on. Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, so meeting date, so yeah. Item 5, pension fund annual report. So I think Chris is going to start and then over to Dan.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just before I hand over to Dan, I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank Dan and his colleagues, actually. This has been the first time that we've produced the annual report. It might look familiar. It's the first time we've produced this under the new guidance and expectations. So I know that Dan and his colleagues in finance have put an awful lot of time into pulling this document together, and had they not done that, it wouldn't have arrived in the format it's in. So I'd just like to pass on my thanks. It's been a real help to me, the efforts that Dan has gone to with his colleagues to pull this document together for you. So I don't want to steal any more of his thunder. He's here to take you through the process and how it's got to the stage today. Just one more thing really is that we're hoping for approval today because we have got a publication date by the 1st of December. So if you have got any comments that might come out of this meeting, we haven't got a lot of time to turn them around. So I'll be grateful to have those either today or immediately after the meeting if you get the chance to do that. But hopefully you've had the chance to read it and are comfortable with it. So just keep that in mind, that publication date, please. So thank you, Dan. Over to you.
Chris. Over to you, Dan.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. Thank you, Peter. Yeah, so today, morning, councillors. Today we're looking to approve the pension fund annual report. As part of the LGPS regulations, as Chris has mentioned, it needs to be published by the 1st of December each year, whether that's audited or not. The draft version came to the committee on the 7th of October, and we asked for comments at that point. Also, within the report, as Chris has mentioned, the Scheme Advisory Board issue new guidance this year to make headings consistent across all pension funds. Whilst doing that, they also issued musts, shoulds, and may haves within the criteria in their guidance, and it was one of best efforts agenda this year. So best efforts have been made to tick off as many of those as we can, and certainly all the musts have been ticked off, and we'll look at improving on the shoulds and the maybes in future years as information, as we sort of tailor our methods to get that information. Contained in the report from page 24 to 56, as you look at it in the pack, are the accounts of the pension fund. The process for approving the accounts is through the Governance and Audit Committee, and last Wednesday, the 20th, they approved those accounts. Audit Wales had previously audited the accounts and were happy to issue an unqualified opinion. Pending today's outcome, if the accounts are approved, the report is approved, an audit look at the report and look for consistency with the accounts. That's their role when looking at the report. So if the report is approved today, we'll get Audit Wales to sign off the accounts and report tomorrow. So I didn't have anything more to add, really. It's just whether there are any questions on the report.
Okay, thanks, Dan. I think the pension board have commented, haven't they, David?
Sorry, just unmuting myself, Peter. Yeah. Yes, the pension board. I think they had a sight of an early draft when Gerard was in my position, and when I was appointed from August, it was one of the first things I looked at with Chris. And to be honest, I didn't have much to add. The board's reports in there, the chairman of the pension board's report is all from Gerard, and I just tweaked it with a couple of changes to things like DLUP changing back to MHCLG and just to update. But I haven't had much input, to be honest, other than to approve it. And the board at the last meeting approved it in its current format and content, and we're happy to recommend for you to approve today, Chair.
Okay, thank you, David. Hugh? You're muted. You're muted, Hugh.
Yeah, can I echo your words, Chair, in thanking the pension department and Dan, in this instance, leads it. Chris, I think, is that fair to say? I see this as a Bible. I refer to this, to be honest, because there's a lot of information that I should know, but I can't remember, and I read this. But I should have said from the minutes as well, we did raise the issue last time about the staffing level in the pension department section. I'm not sure where we went on it. Now, this is a significant bit of work, and there's, I don't know, McLeod and all these other things here. So bearing in mind, this was a lot of work, and I thank the team for it. We didn't address that, or did we? The staffing level.
We did. Chris, do you want to comment?
Yes, that was the reason for the meeting held on the 22nd of October.
Yes.
It was to address the resource. And yeah, I'm very grateful the committee did approve some additional resource for the pensions committee. So we're just working through how it might look, and I'll present the appropriate update to committee when it's ready.
Right. So that's what I was getting at as well, is where are we with it?
Building the structure to implement or plug the gaps that are identified, essentially, Councillor Williams. So as part of the review, we identified some areas that we needed to strengthen. One of those is governance, for example, which this might fall into as an example. So we're looking at how we best address and fill those gaps. So currently preparing job descriptions to slot into a structure, which I'll then present to committee when it's ready in the not too distant future.
Thanks.
Can I have one further question?
Yes, you certainly may.
Right, in the scheduled bodies within the pension, there's us, there's Brecon Beacons and what have you, but we've got some interesting names as far as I'm concerned, like the Heart of Wales and Kia Facilities. Now then, are they legacy? Are they in perpetuity? Are those employees still with us? And who are Wales European Centre?
That's a historic employer. So essentially, what some of those names you've given us there have existing pensioners and perhaps deferred members. So whilst they might not have any active members contributing to the scheme, and they might have some legacy members still essentially within the system.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
So I can see Trish and Jane. Did you want to come and comment on this now, or wait for Trish?
Yes, thanks very much. Actually, mine was on the same point about the staffing, really. And I noticed in the report, there are a few things that you haven't been able to provide the data on, like the number of phone calls and emails into the group. And really that sort of activity I do think is key. So I know that you've got plans to try and address that. One question I had, though, was about the number of staff in the pension section, equating roughly to the ratio of 1,677 members. I just wondered, Chris, have you got any comparative data for other pension funds for, you know, the staffing levels? Thank you.
I have, yes. Thank you, Trish.
Okay.
This information will actually be out there in the other funds' annual reports as well, so we can directly compare once they've published theirs. I think it's fair to say that we are not the best resourced fund when it comes to admin members per scheme members per administrator, but we're not the worst either. And I think it's important to remember that when we're the resourcing implications that we talked about and addressed at the October meeting wasn't actually in respect of scheme membership. We're fairly comfortable with the amount of scheme members that each admin staff look after. It's the gaps, the framework around it, it's the governance and the communications and the systems, which are the areas that we identified for strength. And if you follow that through, if we develop our systems to be more efficient, then we should see efficiencies filter through to the admin team as well. The difficulties we've had is progressing the developments around workflow and making sure we've got enough resource in place in terms of governance and what we know is coming down the road, which we'll discuss after the meeting as well. But to answer your original question, we're not too badly resourced when it comes to the admin numbers when you benchmark us against other funds in Wales.
Okay, well, thanks, Trish. Jane?
Yeah, I just wanted to come in. We had audit committee last week where the accounts themselves were actually considered. It's for audit committee to sign off the account side of these things as well. They looked at those together with the council's accounts, and I'm really pleased to say the feedback we had from the auditors was really good. They talked about a good set of accounts. When I hear auditors say things like that, I'm very pleased because we don't get that sort of comment very often. So I'm really pleased for that. But I think what was also mentioned at the committee, both in terms of the pension side of things, but also from a finance perspective as well, was around the resource and making sure that it's adequate to fulfill lots of these statutory responsibilities upon us. So, you know, that was highlighted there, and the committee were very supportive of making sure that that was in place. So just a couple of things to raise from me, and you'll see that both myself and the chair have actually signed the accounts element of this report already, and as I said, hopefully the Auditor General will be signing them off later this week.
Okay, well, thanks, Jane. No, it's very important, and it's good to see the audit. It's still called the audit committee. Is it? I change the name, I get lost a bit with the sign off. They look at it before we look at it. It always gets me, that does. But so it's good. Karina.
I was just going to, it sounds a bit picky, but I noticed that the total cost per member, you got a useful graph, is £340, I think. Is that correct? And is that normal? Is that a benchmark average? And having these new people doing the governance roles will obviously make it rise. I assume that a smaller pension fund doesn't have economies of scale. Will that still keep it in a normal area?
Yeah, you're exactly right, Karina. Being a smaller fund, we don't get the economies of scale. So dividing salaries out amongst a smaller membership automatically makes you more expensive, for example. And it's important to remember that a lot of these additional resources are expectations on the fund, regardless of size. So looking after employers, looking after the governance requirements, looking after the financial reporting or investment reporting, it's all things we have to do, regardless of our scale. So yes, it will push the cost up, but I think it's important to keep it in mind that we might not be comparing like for like because of, as you say, size of funds. If you put us on a league table, we probably would look expensive simply because we can't divide our costs amongst the membership, because these costs are usually broken down costs per member. Less members you've got, the less you can divide it by. So yes.
Okay. Sorry, you moved, Karina. Oh, you gone up there? Sorry, you moved on the screen. You're happy with that, Karina? It is. No, it's interesting. Thanks for bringing that up.
You've just said it's unavoidable.
Okay, David.
Thank you, Chair. Just to endorse everything that's the 151 officer said, because I attended that audit and governance meeting as well, and I'd just like to take this opportunity to formally thank Dan and his team for the excellent work they've done on the both reports. Just with regard to resource within the pension area, I have no problem whatsoever, and I think it's fully justified, and I do appreciate that if anything, it might be under-resourced, but it was good to hear the support coming out of Audit and Governance Committee for additional resource if required, but certainly adequate resource within the corporate service as a whole, and certainly the pension function. But just a word of warning, if that's the correct term, but there is some unease within the council as a whole with regard to staffing levels, particularly in corporate services. And it's just something to bear in mind. I think it's down to ignorance, a lot of it, because they don't fully appreciate the amount of work that's involved in these different functions. So I think going forward, if you are approached, it's just something that you might bear in mind. I know that the as far as the staff resource is concerned within the pension area, it comes out of the fund itself, but it's just something to bear in mind, really. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah. Thank you, David. Yeah, because you brought this up last meeting and we took this on board very much. I quite agree with you. Some they'll comment without understanding, won't they?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
it does. Yeah, I think we're trying to address that issue.
Yeah.
Okay, then. Well, thank you, David. Any more questions? Okay, then. Well, I like to reiterate what people have said about Dan and the team, but getting this report together and everybody working fantastic, and it's good to see the Audit and Governance Committee approve this as well. So I'm looking for a proposer and seconder to approve the report, please. Hugh, thank you, and Karina second. Everybody happy? Lovely, thank you very much. Thank you for that. So that concludes the meeting, Rachel. So could just hold back. Are you able to switch the recording off, Rachel? Thank you.
Yeah, I'll just end the meeting for the public, and then that'll take you into confidential session.